Thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure to join you this afternoon.
All right. Now, under Section 114 of the Constitution, the National Assembly has the authority to resume legislative powers during a state of emergency. How does this provision interact with the Senate's establishment of a joint committee to oversee the administration of Rivers State?
Thank you. I think for me, the National Assembly is performing a function that the Constitution has vested in it in any situation that the State House of Assembly is unable to legislate or perform its constitutional function of lawmaking. And that is pursuant to Section 11, subsection 4 of the Constitution. Even if I hold a strong view, and I emphasize and reiterate that the situation that arose in Rivers State was not justified, but being that that's the situation now, the National Assembly has got to do what they've done. The House of Representatives did that earlier, and then the Senate has constituted the 8-man committee. What I think really should be discussed here now is what and how the National Assembly committees, perhaps they're going to be a joint committee, to relate with an office that is unconstitutional. The office of the sole administrator of a state was never envisaged in the Constitution, was never intended at all by the drafters of the 1999 Constitution. So even when Section 11, subsection 4 is to be invoked, it is in a situation where the democratic institutions, particularly with respect to the executive, the governor of the state would be there. And then it is the legislative arm where they are unable to make laws that the National Assembly would have done what they are doing. Because that same Section 11, sub 4 made a provision that even when the National Assembly will perform this legislative function, they do not have the power to remove a governor. So it means, therefore, that we should have had the executive governor in office. So the National Assembly, by relating with the sole administrator, who is not known to law, is in another way giving credence to what is not constitutional. But I think for me, that remains the talking point that has been on the issue of the unconstitutional, unlawful, and illegal declaration of state of emergency in Rivers State, and it will continue to be so until it is turned otherwise.
That's quite interesting. Now, are there any specific powers or maybe limitations that should be looked at in terms of the joint committee possessing, of course, the constitutional powers to effectively oversee the administration of Rivers State without infringing on executive prerogatives?
Of course, the Constitution clearly provides a direction as to what the Joint Committee of the National Assembly will do. It is just to perform the functions of the House of Assembly. So if they need a guide, it is to revert to what the functions of the legislature would be. So they cannot, and they do not have the power or the cover in any way to infiltrate into what the executive would do. And what are these functions of the legislature? If the Rivers State House of Assembly were to be in operation, then it would mean to make laws, and then the general power vested in the legislature in making law could mean to review existing laws in ways of amending them or repealing them where it's necessary to repeal, or consolidate certain existing laws where they have common objectives addressing common issue. And then to add to the lawmaking function of the legislature is the oversight of public funds. And then the power that the legislature has with respect to public funds is primarily with respect to receiving from the governor of the state an appropriation bill to consider and pass into an appropriation law, what is generally referred to as the budget. And then having done so, having appropriated monies to ministries, departments, and agencies of government to perform respective functions, the legislature has the oversight of how these monies are being appropriated and utilized. And the purpose also is clear in the Constitution. It's for the purpose of knowing whether there is need to appropriate more funds or whether there is need to make laws to enable the departments, ministries, and agencies of government to appropriately utilize those funds. So they do not have any power to go into the performance of the functions of the office of the governor.
All right, Henry Ekine, thank you so much for the clarification. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing the details with us. It was nice talking to you at this time.
Thank you very much. It's always my pleasure to be with you.
You're welcome. And now, news reaching us is that the Red Chamber, that is the Senate, the Nigerian Senate, is actually about debating the tax reform bills. We are going to be taking the live feeds. You can see it on your screen right now to listen to the details of the session.